Welcome to As Fresh as It Gets, the show where we take you behind the scenes to meet San Mateo County's farmers, growers, and all the people behind the scenes who help make it happen. One of those is with us today, Adria Arko, Program Specialist and Agricultural Ombudsman for the San Mateo County Resource Conservation District. She has the world's longest business card, I think, right?
As I said earlier, just small font.
Exactly. So, Adria, are you a county-funded government organization, or will you explain that to us?
Yeah, so resource conservation districts exist throughout California, and they are special districts, much like a fire district or a school district. And they're government entities, but they're not state agencies or county departments. We work closely with San Mateo County, and our district is in San Mateo County, but we're actually not affiliated with San Mateo County government.
So how are you funded? Who ends up signing your paycheck?
We have a very, very small tax base. So in our district, which is it's coastal San Mateo County, with some donut holes, like Half Moon Bay is not included. We have a tax base which is just about $50,000 a year. Everything else comes from grants and private donations.
Now, coming back to the donut hole that you mentioned, we'll be talking about how you assist growers, but you're really saying you're not allowed to assist growers in Half Moon Bay proper, but you're able to assist them on the coast side in the unincorporated area, is that right?
We do work in Half Moon Bay. We work out of our district regularly. It's just where our tax comes from.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you assist a grower? I'm sure no 2 days are the same, but
yeah.
How does it work?
So I actually have two roles at the RCD. I am the program specialist, so I do a lot of grants administration, which is really fun because I have my hands in all of our projects. I kind of bridge the administrative and the program side of those projects. And then I'm also the county's agricultural ombudsman. So this position is funded by the county, but I do work out of the RCD for this position. In 2012, they had a workshop for agricultural operators on the coast, and the outcome of that was that the permitting process is really complicated, and growers and ranchers simply they don't have the time to dive into permits and to meet with planning and building and environmental health. Going over the hill, it takes a lot of time, and they just don't have that because it takes a lot of time and energy and resources to run a farming business. So they developed this position, which exists in about 3 or 4 other counties around California, and the RCD submitted a proposal to house the position within their organization. Because the RCD's work is free, it's non-regulatory, and it's confidential. And that's what I do as the agricultural ombudsman. I go out there as a confidential person. So if there's something that's unpermitted on someone's property, I'm not going to get them in trouble. I don't report that to the county.
You're not a squealer.
Yeah, I just help them move the project that they want to do forward through the permitting process. So,
sounds like you have an enormous job. When you're talking about the permitting process, is it primarily local permits? Are there state permits as well? I mean, It sounds like a mountain of paperwork for these poor growers.
Yeah. So it depends. Most or all of the projects that I work on, the position that I have with the county is just to work on county permits, the county's regulatory process. Some of those projects do require state or federal permits, especially when it relates to a riparian habitat or endangered species. But as of now, I'm not working on those state or federal permits. I can, however, connect the growers to someone that's able to provide them assistance. And then going back to that donut hole, the position right now, I'm paid to work only in unincorporated San Mateo County, and so I don't actually work in Half Moon Bay proper, but I'm trying to find a way with Kelix, my executive director, to provide those services because I think they're wanted and they're necessary, and so we're trying to find a way so we can extend my scope of work a little bit.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Now I know your work is supposed to be it's confidential, but can you share success stories without sharing names? Can you come up with some ideas of?
Absolutely. So the first project I worked on, I've been in this position since April 2015, so just about over 2 years. So the first project was for a multi-generational ranch. And it was kind of the peak of the drought, and they had run out of water. The spring that had been reliable for decades just stopped providing water, and so they had to truck water in, both for the family that lived on the property and for the cattle. So they were interested in drilling wells. So I was able to help them select appropriate positions for the wells, and help them work through the permitting process with planning and environmental health. And now they have a well and they have reliable water.
That's great.
And right now, my most recent project is helping a farmer who is in desperate need of an office. So that's an accessory building to agriculture. Right now, they're working out of their home, and they just are in desperate need of their own office to run this farm as it grows and becomes more successful. So I'm helping them work with planning and building to select an appropriate location and building for this new office.
On their property, on the farmer's property.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And so what is your background when you're talking about placing wells? You had to have an ag background somewhere.
I've been working in food system work for about 10 years. I have a bachelor's in environmental science where I focused on agriculture, and then I have a master's in public policy where I focused on agriculture. And I've been working with different organizations in different roles, but all around the food system.
Now, you talked about a master's, which is a perfect segue. We have a master in farming. We have a clip of Pie Ranch, and everyone knows Jered Lawson, very active among the farming community and quite a pioneer.
Yes.
So let's just take a look at his property. We are here at the beautiful Pie Ranch with owner Jered Lawson, and we're so glad to be on this property, Jered. This is fairly new, right? You have a piece of Pie Ranch on the other side of Highway 1.
Yes.
And now we're on the ocean side.
Right. Yeah, the original 14 acres that we started on, which is shaped like a slice of pie, is over on the east side of Highway 1. And then we expanded to another 13 acres, so 27 acres over there where our farm stand is. And then we had the opportunity about 4 years ago to take on an additional lease of 85 acres here at the former Año Nuevo flower growers site to grow diversified vegetables bound for local markets.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that. I mean, as fresh as it gets, of course, is all about trying to keep the produce local, whether it's in restaurants or having residents buy it. And you've partnered with corporations who are local.
Yeah, both companies with large organization cafeteria programs, universities, and we're also now just beginning partnerships with the school districts, and especially the ones that we've had a long partnership with for the educational programming that we do over on the east side of the highway. But this came into being because of an interest in innovating in the cafeterias that are a part of companies like Google, where their employees are getting fed wonderful meals, and yet a lot of the ingredients in those meals come from places that they're not, it's just not always clear where it's coming from. And so we really wanted, like As Fresh as It Gets, to make that connection conscious. And so we developed it as a community-supported agriculture model where the company commits to the farm in advance of the season, and then we have the production that's geared towards their consumption. We know how much they want.
That allows you to gear your crops for it. And
exactly.
So how many, I'm looking here, it's like a still life, of course, it's gorgeous. How many types of lettuce or vegetables would you say you're growing here on these acres?
Great. With each, we've been adding diversity as we've gained capacity on larger scale production, but each crop we might have 3 or 4 5 different varieties to provide that diversity in the meals. So with the lettuces, this is kind of a new crop for us that we're trialing. We started with just the baby gem lettuce, and now we have a baby red romaine and a green leaf lettuce. With kale, we have like 4 different varieties of kale, chard, similar. We have a new one, peppermint chard and rainbow chard. And,
Well, they're so perfect. That's what's amazing to me. And then I know there's a little bang in the background. Do you want to talk about what that is all
Well, we
about?
also have, so we do this, and why we've expanded this production on this side as well, is we have 33 acres of row crops, and then we have the equivalent amount of land in pasture. And so that boom we just heard was to scare away predators for our chickens, their laying hens. So in that pasture we run 20 head of cattle through, and our chickens follow. And they're fertilizing that ground and kind of replenishing it while at the same time giving us the beautiful proteins. And after this year, we'll be turning that into the area that we grow the kale and chard and lettuces, and then this ground will turn into the pasture for the chickens and the cows.
Amazing. And that doesn't scare the laying hens when they hear explosions?
You know, I think it must a little bit, but maybe now they've gotten used to it. It's better that than a bobcat.
So I know, coming back to Google as an example, they're winning, their company is getting As Fresh as It Gets awards for making such an effort to buy fresh and local. Do you have any idea how many pounds, or I don't know whether you go by bushels, or what would you estimate you're shipping to a company like that?
Tens of thousands of cases a year. Like, I think we probably, off of these fields last year, maybe was close to 30,000 cases of produce. So each partner is going to have their percentage of that. Google happens to be a larger company that we partnered with early on, so they're getting maybe the largest share of what we have growing here. But then Stanford University also, there's Cal Dining. We have partnerships in San Francisco with Airbnb and Asana. And so we're
good for you. That's amazing.
To grow.
So is there more acreage in your future? I mean, at what point do you reach capacity with those companies?
Right. Well, I think it's also what's the carrying capacity for a viable commercial farm. That's part of, as an educational farm, what we're trying to develop here. Not one that's not just geared towards local markets, but that also really takes care of the land in the production process, as well as the people who are working the land. Right. So we're one of the first farms to be food justice certified, so that all of our employees, we're just like for certified organic, you meet a certain level of requirements in order to be labeled organic. It's the same for food justice certification. So we want to demonstrate to the people who are eating the food and have a clear way for them to know that there's no compromises in the care that we provide in the production of the food.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I've never asked you this before, but do these companies label anything in their cafeterias that describes where it comes from, or
exactly.
is that something that?
Yes, and we want to be able to do that more and more, and as this grows, it would be wonderful to have the As Fresh as It Gets be a part of that labeling
Perfect.
as well. But at the point of, that's for us the whole, idea behind this is to make that relationship conscious. So when you have that kale on your lunch plate, that it's coming from this farm with this view.
Right,
and
exactly.
Many of the employees have had a chance to visit as well. So we'll host groups from the companies and the university, and are obviously a long-standing partnerships with our schools. They come regularly. So we want to give them hands-on. We have a group of 50 folks coming next week who are part of Google Serve, and they'll be out here helping to weed a row.
Oh, fantastic. That's it. It helps you, and it's nice for them, right?
It helps them,
right.
and
So if a company happens to watch this segment and has an interest, can you accommodate more companies at this point? Are you interested in talking to them? Or?
We can, and what we would love to do is then replicate. So if there are other partnering farms in the area, can start to aggregate and provide that new demand, meet the supply for that new demand.
Great. Well, Jered, thank you so much for having us out, and happy birthday. I understand today's your big
you,
day.
Yes,
thank you for having us on your beautiful farm.
Yeah. Well, thank you, and good luck with all the rest of your highlighting of our local farms.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Farmers aren't the only amazing businesses in Pescadero. You've seen Jered, pretty interesting. We're going to take quite a different look now. We're going to look at a small winery, Santé Arcangeli Winery in downtown Pescadero. Let's take a look at that, Adria. We are here at Santé Arcangeli Winery in downtown Pescadero, and we're here with owner and founder John Benedetti. Thank you so much for having us here.
Hi.
So, an amazing winery. I love the rustic wood. How long have you been here?
I opened 3 days after my son was born in 2013.
Nice. You had your hands full then?
Very full. My family's been here for right around 100 years with a bakery up the street.
Okay.
And Santé, my great-grandfather, founded that bakery in the 20s.
Wow.
So it made sense for me to reestablish the winery up here in town where my family's from.
How nice. And I know you have several varieties. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what kinds of wine you make?
Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, pretty much exclusively. That's what we can grow around here. We're in a cool coastal climate,
Right.
and those grapes tend to thrive in that sort of, I call it the lizard line, like the space where a cold-blooded reptile would live between hot and cold. Pinot
Okay.
likes that.
So we're talking, you had mentioned earlier, many of your grapes come then from Santa Cruz Mountains, and then you have a local vineyard as well, you said.
Yeah, for the first time in 2016, we harvested a new vineyard that my vineyard manager planted on Alpine Road here, kind of out of Woodside.
Uh-huh.
And but the bulk of our fruit comes from Corralitos, which is in the southern end of the Santa Cruz
Sure.
Mountains appellation. And we get a little bit of fruit from the Sonoma Coast and Anderson Valley as well. But the stuff that our friends grow and that we grow with our friends is Corralitos.
Now, how did you learn about winemaking?
Well, my dad kind of got me into wine when I was a little kid. Not a little kid. That's totally wrong.
That's okay,
let me
that's
rephrase
true.
that. My dad kind of got me into wine when I was younger, in my 20s, and he has a cellar under the bakery.
Uh-huh.
So drinking old French wines, mostly Rhone
Wow.
stuff, some Burgundies, some Bordeauxs,
Uh-huh.
but I developed a taste for wines that were far beyond a 21-year-old.
I'm sure. Right, yeah.
And my friends owned wineries in Santa Cruz,
Okay.
and I was a brewer, a beer brewer.
Wow.
So I was bringing them beers, and because it takes a lot of beer to make good wine, and they were making wine, and I kept bringing them bottles of of other wines that I wanted them to try. So they encouraged me to start. So I
Nice.
learned as a cellar rat. So
Interesting.
You call it a cellar rat when you're like a volunteer or a cellar worker at a winery.
Okay. Well, I've learned that in the lizard line. I'll certainly remember those. Now, your bar is interesting. Is there anything special about the wood from the bar?
Yeah, this was a Windfall redwood from Bonnie Doon, right across from my friend Ryan Beauregard's winery there. And so we were I was just about to open the tasting room. I had no bar, and I was making my wines at Beauregard at the time. And we went across the street because his neighbor had told him that he had some Windfall trees,
Wow.
and he had cut some slabs that were raw from those trees, and so it was just sitting there, just ready to go.
It's beautiful. Did you finish it yourself, or?
He finished it for
Oh, he
me
finished
like
it. Wow.
that week, and
a
we were
nice
open a
run.
week later, just in time.
So I love the tables, and obviously I look at the tabletop and see it's from a wine barrel, but it's not just any wine barrel.
Yeah, that was the first barrel I ever made and the second barrel I ever made
Wow.
of Pinot Noir.
Nice.
My brother, I gave my brother the barrels, and he converted them into furniture for me.
Nice. And he does the stools as well, right?
He did the stools, yeah. It's all so that's one barrel, and then
Wow.
the other barrel. So yeah,
That's
there was a
amazing.
second stool.
Should have a little plaque on each one, right? Our first barrel, second barrel. So obviously people are going to want to come in and try your wines. When are they able to do that?
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, year round,
Okay. From when till when?
from 12 till 5.
12 till 5.
Yeah,
And
and it's
then-
usually my niece in here.
I
running the
see.
show.
Okay.
I'm in here on occasion as well. So it's just a 3-person company.
Sure. And what's your niece's name in case
Her
they-
name's Stephanie.
Stephanie. I'm sure everyone will come in and ask for her by name now.
Yeah, she's been great, and
Uh-huh.
it's a 3-person company. It's myself, my assistant winemaker, and my niece,
Nice.
and that's it.
Nice.
So you're going to get one of us in here when you come in.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for having us. Is there anything else you want people to know about the winery, or anything you think we haven't covered today?
No, I'm just making really small lots. The wines are very high end.
Right.
I focus on the Burgundian grapes and trying to make sort of layered, more nuanced wines.
Right.
They've been very critically acclaimed,
Nice.
and people tend to really come in and be surprised.
Well, the Pinot that I just tasted is delicious, so kudos to you.
And that's
Outstanding
our split
job.
rail vineyard Pinot right there.
I'm sorry, split rail?
Split rail vineyard, yeah. It's an
Vineyard.
Old
Okay,
vineyard
great.
from Corralitos.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, and
Yes,
it's a
cheers.
pleasure being here. Thank you. And finally, you'd be amazed how much there is to do in Pescadero. we have a company, a business called the Pescadero Flowery. It's across from Santé Arcangeli Winery and all about dahlias. Let's take a look at that. We are here in Pescadero, and we're at the Pescadero Flowery with Margolis. And the owner, Mia Riddle, is off camera, but available for any answers that we might not come up with right away. We are here early in the season, but by the time this clip is aired on the show, this background here is going to look totally different. Is that right?
It's true. There'll be big bushes, as far as you can see, covered in flowers of all different colors, thousands and thousands of blooms all at the same time. It's amazing.
Now, are they all dahlias, or?
Yes,
you
all
have a variety?
dahlias. Many different kinds. Some of them look very different than each other. Some are big, some are small.
And how many varieties do you have?
We're going to have 90 varieties this
Wow.
year.
Now, I've seen dinner plate dahlias. Are those the big ones? Are those
Yes,
the biggest?
they are. Yeah, we have many. We have a whole corner that's dinner plate.
Nice.
Dahlias, and then the rest is all different sizes.
Now, how do you determine if someone comes in and wants to pick flowers? Are there different sizes or different options for people to pick them, or how will that work?
Well, it's $2 a stem, and then for the dinner plate size, it's $4 a stem.
Nice.
So people can pick as many as they want to pick. If they want this many, they can pick that many.
Sure.
You know.
Uh-huh. So now I notice you have a lot of pottery here, and you have a lot of succulents, which I didn't realize. Can you tell us about that and all the scoops and all the things that are behind us?
Sure. There's a make your own succulent garden, and we have people can pick what kind of vessel they would like. They can pick out different succulents that they want to put together, and then there's various little things to make it pretty. There's rocks and toppings, and people have a great time. They come in and they just light up and
Nice.
put together little gardens. So
Now I notice with the succulents there's a sign that tells people don't crowd them. Mm-hmm. Why is that? Why do they need a lot of room?
well, they're going to keep growing. So if you put them too close together, they'll be smashed together and they won't be healthy. So you have to plan for that. It's a living creature. It's going to keep growing, and you want to leave some room for that.
Do they just keep growing, or do they actually reproduce? I feel like I've seen succulents where a small one will appear out of nowhere right next to the first one.
That definitely happens. It depends on the variety. Some of them will, make a whole cluster of the same kind. So it's a work in progress. You'll get to see what happens with it.
Well, it's obviously a great fun family outing, and then for some serious gardeners, I know in the spring, for a limited period of time, you have a tuber sale. Will you
Yes.
talk about that a little bit?
Sure. We're just about coming to a close on our tuber sale right now, but we had a lot of different varieties, and this year, due to some labeling difficulties, we had a ton of mysteries. So people were very excited about the bargain bin mystery tubers that could have been any of, I think, 75 different varieties that we had. So
Great. So tell us, just before we leave you, hours that people are able to visit. When are people able to come and pick those flowers in season?
Well, we will be open every single day except for Tuesday, and you can check our website, thepescaderoflowery.com, and there's also Facebook and Instagram.
Great.
Same name.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I hope everyone comes out and picks flowers here. Adria, thank you so much for being here to tell us about what you do.
Thanks for having me.
And thank all of you for tuning in to As Fresh as It Gets.